The insult landed softly, almost politely. "We don't shake hands with people like you." It wasn't shouted. It was whispered, deliberate, precise, cruel. The air inside the glass-walled boardroom froze. 12 executives sat stiff around the long, polished table. The city stretched far below them, a maze of steel and ambition. Cameras from the live investor feed kept rolling, catching everything: the smirk, the silence, and the faint laughter that followed. Ava Monroe didn't move. Her hand stayed suspended in midair for a heartbeat longer. Then, with quiet dignity, she lowered it. The light from the skyline caught her skin. Reflecting against the glass like a slow spark fading out, she smiled. Not out of comfort, but control. "Understood?" she said softly. The woman across from her, Victoria Sloan, leaned back in her chair, smug and satisfied. The chairwoman of Sloan Industries, she'd built her empire by making others feel small. Now she had her latest example standing right in front of her. The 47th floor of Langston Tower looked more like a temple than a workplace: white marble, steel, and silence. Power hummed quietly through its air vents. Victoria adjusted her papers with theatrical precision. "Now that we're clear on protocol," she said, her tone syrupy with sarcasm, "shall we proceed?" Ava gave a small nod. Of course. She had walked into rooms like this before. Rooms where her presence was tolerated, not welcomed. Rooms where people measured her worth before they measured her words. It wasn't the first insult she'd heard in her career, but something about the ease in Victoria's voice stung deeper. Still, Ava didn't let it show. She'd learned long ago that silence can be a sword. The meeting resumed. Charts flickered across the screen: profit projections, market shares, future valuations. Ava's team presented carefully, but every few minutes Victoria interrupted. She cut Ava off mid-sentence, mocked her analysts, and called her growth models optimistic at best. The men around the table chuckled politely, taking their cue from the woman in power. Ava sat perfectly straight, pen in hand, eyes calm. She wrote small notes, one after another, her hand steady even when her pulse wasn't. Inside, she was remembering something, her father's voice. "Dignity is what you do when no one else gives it to you." When she looked up again, her eyes had changed. At 3:17 p.m. The meeting broke for a short recess. Ava stepped out into the hallway overlooking the city. The windows stretched from floor to ceiling, reflecting the skyline back at her. Her reflection looked composed, but behind that calm she felt something else: heat, sadness, and the quiet ache of 1,000 smaller humiliations she'd swallowed over the years. She took a slow breath, then pulled out her phone. "Execute Clause 8.3, she said quietly. "Effective immediately." Her tone was even, but there was a tremor beneath it, a note of finality. The voice on the other end simply replied, "Understood." Ava closed her eyes for a moment. Then she straightened her jacket and went back inside. Victoria was already seated again, tapping her pen against the table. "Where were we?" she asked. Ava met her eyes. "At the part," she said slowly, "where arrogance becomes expensive." Victoria gave a sharp laugh. "I beg your pardon?" Before Ava could answer, a phone buzzed, then another. The CFO frowned, scrolling through his screen. "Madam Chair," he said, "you need to see this." "What is it?" "Our funding, Monroe Capital just withdrew. 2.4 billion. Effective immediately." Victoria blinked, confused. "That's impossible." Ava's voice was quiet, steady. "Clause 8.3, signed by your legal team. It allows immediate withdrawal if misconduct is documented during negotiations." Her eyes shifted toward the corner camera, the one still recording. "And since this meeting is being live-streamed, you've documented everything yourself." The room erupted into noise. Phones rang, Messages pinged. Panic rippled through the table. Executives started whispering. One tried to reach PR. Another was already checking the markets. Within minutes, the ticker on the wall began to slide. Red numbers blinked. Stocks were falling. Victoria turned toward Ava, her voice shaking. "You have no idea what you've just done." Ava rose slowly. "Yes, I do," she said. "I've protected my company from contamination. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Loom." Victoria's face turned white. "You'll regret this." Ava's tone stayed gentle. "Maybe, but I won't forget it." Her calmness made the chaos louder. One of the board members, an older man with tired eyes, finally spoke. "No, ma'am," he said to Victoria. "You did this." The silence that followed was absolute. Ava gathered her papers. "For future reference," she said. "Respect is cheaper than recovery." She started walking toward the door, then paused beside Victoria. "You thought power meant control," she said quietly. "It doesn't. Power means choice, and I just made mine." She walked out. The camera by the glass wall caught her reflection as she left. A composed woman stepping out of a collapsing empire. Behind her, Sloan Industries began to unravel in real time. By sunset, the news had spread. Sloan Industries had lost 38% of its market value. Banks froze accounts. Partners pulled out. By midnight, every network carried the same story. Monroe Capital withdraws $2.4 billion. Sloan Empire in crisis. They called it the Handshake Collapse. Victoria Sloan became the face of corporate downfall. Cameras swarmed her office. Every headline used the same image the moment she refused a handshake. And Ava? She gave no interviews, no statements, just a single line emailed to every outlet. Partnerships end when respect does. But behind the headlines, there was something quieter, something human. In boardrooms across the world, women who had been dismissed or talked over replayed the clip. They saw Ava's calm face, her patience, her restraint. In quiet offices late at night, they whispered her name not as gossip, but as courage, because sometimes power doesn't shout. Sometimes it walks out the door without slamming it. Before you go, wait till you hear what happens next. Stay with us. A few weeks later, a small envelope arrived at Monroe Capital's office. No return address. Inside was a handwritten note. "You taught me what control really means." No signature. But Ava knew. She kept the letter in her drawer, never showing it to anyone. That night, as the city lights glowed outside her window, she finally let herself breathe. The humiliation from that day had burned, but it had also lit something inside her. Something that couldn't be extinguished anymore. She poured herself a cup of tea, set it beside her desk, and smiled faintly. Not the smile of revenge, but of peace. Sometimes strength doesn't come from fighting. Sometimes it comes from refusing to play the game at all. Ava would never say it publicly, but deep down she knew that moment had changed her. It wasn't about the money or the victory. It was about reclaiming her self-respect after years of quiet endurance. The following year, Monroe Capital became the most trusted name in ethical investing. Its slogan was simple: integrity compounds faster than profit. And people believed it, because they believed her. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Loom, where we bring real stories of courage, dignity, and second chances.